Greetings, friends. My name is Trenton. I go by Trenton907 on Twitter. That's probably where, if you're watching this, that's probably where you know me from. This is just going to be a very quick, simple little rundown of my process for how to print proxies using my Epson EcoTank ET2750 printer and the foil paper that I use. I'll also walk through on how to set this printer up specifically just for plain white printer paper, because if you set it up for the foil paper and then just drop printer paper in it and hit print, you're gonna have a really bad time. So we're gonna kind of dive into it a little bit and show you guys what I do and how I go about it. Let's take a look. So first thing you're gonna wanna do, as per usual, is make sure that you are in the right area. You're gonna go to your settings, your devices, your printers. Pretty standard for dialing things in. Here we have my Epson ET2750, and we're gonna go to Manage, and we're gonna go to Printing Preferences. By going to Printing Preferences, we bring up this screen. Right now, I am actually currently out of my foil paper, so I have been printing a handful of proxies to get a couple of decks built just on letter paper as it sits. So with document size, my foil paper is actually an A4 sizing. Kind of changes a couple of small things, but just make sure that you have your right paper sizing set. So for plain white paper, we're gonna select letter, so 8.5 by 11. But when I do get my foiling paper in, I will be selecting A4. So plain white paper, which is also selected here. When I again get the foil paper, I will be changing that setting. But for now, this is just to set up so you can start printing the cheapest way possible. And then your quality, I always set to standard. So for now, we're just gonna go, that's really it. Once your printer is set up with your computer, the printer itself has a handful of settings that you'll have to set up. Every time you insert a new batch of paper, it'll verify what kind of paper that you have selected or that you have put in your paper tray, and you can change it if you need to, if you change paper between printing sessions. It's the only thing I don't truly like about this printer at the moment is every time I have to switch what medium I'm printing on, I have to manually change my settings. It takes about 45 seconds to do that, so it's not the end of the world, but it's not just as easy as like having a preset that you can select. And maybe that's an option that I'm just missing out on. So this all looks good. We're happy. We've got letter, plain paper, standard quality. Of course, we want color, and we're gonna call it good. So now what we'll do is we'll bring up Card Conjurer. So Card Conjurer is where I make pretty much all of my proxies. I'm not gonna go through the proxy process or creating proxies. Kyle has a tutorial himself on how everything is done in Card Conjurer. It's very helpful. I would highly recommend, if you don't quite know how to navigate through all your different frames and your texts and whatnot, to watch this tutorial and kind of get an idea of how it all works. Once you know how everything works, it's very breezy. You've seen me post on Twitter 8 billion times various pictures of all my different proxies. But what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna go to our printing tool, and we're just gonna choose a handful of files. All right, let's say we're printing some proxies for a CEDH deck that we want to build. Once you have your file selected, I go down here and you download your sheet. I personally prefer the PDF version. I will show you why in just a moment, but you're gonna hit download sheet. And once that's downloaded, I like to drag it to my desktop so I know where it is. It's super easy. And bam, there's our sheet. So this is what we are aiming to print right now. We're gonna go up and hit the print button, nothing crazy. And this is where, when you switch your print settings, things kind of, or when you change your paper and you have to change your settings, this is where things start to kind of matter. If you go to more settings, you hit your letter. I always change the printing size from the fit to printable to about 99%. It leaves a tiny amount, very small amount of hangover if you go all the way around the card's border with either a paper cutter or scissors. It's almost, that 99% is just a tiny bit bigger than the size of an actual Magic card. So when I do my foil paper and I stick it to a bulk Magic card, then you basically just stick it on, and then I can use an X-Acto knife to trim off the excess. But for what we're doing right now, this is perfectly fine, and then we'll hit print. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our settings, and you'll have to do this on your printer as well. And I'll do a very quick rundown on what that looks like on the printer itself. But in your computer, you will once again, you'll wanna go to your settings, your devices, printer, printers, select it, go to manage. Each brand of printer paper is probably going to be a little bit different for how it wants to be set up. The stuff that I use, I'll leave a link in the description below. It's relatively inexpensive. I get it off Amazon. It's the cheapest stuff that I can get for myself up here in Alaska between the shipping time, the shipping price, and the overall price of paper. That's just the stuff that I use. Other stuff other people use. I know there's a couple brands, specifically Kyle Burton, who runs Card Conjurer. I'll post a link to his tweet as well that has the paper he uses. He has better luck with a different brand, but I have a harder time getting that brand up here in Alaska for some reason. It's not primable for me. That being said, same thing, we go to printing preferences, and we're gonna go from letter to A4, which is what I get for my foil paper, and I'm gonna go premium photo paper glossy. I could do ultra premium. So far, I haven't noticed a difference. That's just something you'll probably have to take a little bit of time and mess with yourself and see what paper you end up getting that your printer ends up liking or takes the ink the best. I definitely had some issues early on just doing semi-gloss or matte. So right now, premium photo paper glossy works the best, and I always change it from standard to high. Stay color, and we're good. Now when I go to print, specifically my foil stuff, I like the way these printer settings are set up. It does take a couple seconds, but now I can change to A4, and same thing, I print to 99% and I can hit print. And that's really about it. Depending on the paper you're using, you probably won't have to change your settings all too often. I mean, you might, especially if you want to start experimenting with foil paper and stuff like that. That's the most fun for me. I hope you found that all useful. If you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Trenton907, and I will happily answer any questions I can. If there's any more tips or tricks that you're curious about, feel free to hit me up, let me know. And otherwise, go follow Kyle Burton if you can. Subscribe to him on Patreon and help keep Card Conjurer around, because it's an extremely useful tool and it is a lot of fun to make cards in Card Conjurer. I've made custom cards, I make all my proxies there, so if you can, do everything you can to support Kyle, because he's really cool and he's doing everyone a huge favor by being able to create their own cards with good quality. I've seen other custom card creating sites that aren't as good quality, and Kyle's is hands down my favorite. So I will link his Proxy Process tweet in the description below, and yeah, that's where I learned everything I learned. So hopefully this helps you, and Kyle, thank you for helping me. So we'll see you guys later.